Hello, and good afternoon. This is the Manchurian General. At least it's afternoon at the time of me recording this video. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about Chinese swords. Just swords for this video. And also, just the more common types you'll see. Assuming if you were to be transported back to dynastic or ancient China. Or late medieval China. Who knows? But this is going to be a video about the swords that are most common, the common types, or is commonly seen, both in the military and civilian life. Now, there's already like a decent amount of videos just talking about Chinese swords, or at least specific types, or just subsections of the main term. That being Chinese swords. There's two sections, two main subgroups. The Jian, which is the Chinese double-edged straight sword, and the Dao, a single-edged sword. Funny enough, well, not funny enough, but coincident. But I also happen to own a single-edged sword. This is a Dao, a Chinese Dao, which subsection of the subsection. Well, this is a Liu Dao, or willow leaf saber, if you want to translate Dao as saber. But anyway, so the first swords to be used in ancient China would be the Jian, the Chinese double-edged straight sword, and both in military and civilian life, it's pretty much been the main military arm and weapon of the aristocracy for many centuries, until around the Han Dynasty, which formed around 201 BC. However, around the early Han, the Dao started to come into play, albeit it was a weapon of not of main priority to the military yet, although it was seen in civilian life, both used by common people and aristocracy alike, although they much prefer a Jian over a Dao, but it found its way around. Then, during the wars between the Han and the Xiongnu, the times changed, and the Dao, the single-edged Dao, this version of the Dao is a straight back, shortish, with a ring pommel, or a Huangshou Dao, ring pommel saber. Yeah, that was the first of its kind to be introduced into the military. The Jian also remained big, but after the Han, it phased out. It was phased out really by the Dao, which took over as the main sword of the Han. The Jian was still used by people like officers, generals, high-ranking officials, that sort of thing. But the Dao really solidified its place. Now, from the Han to the Song is all straight backs, at least when it comes to actual swords. Pole arms are a whole different kettle of fish. But yeah, straight backs. We got stuff like Tong Dao, Sui Dao. The Song Dao is a different beast. The Song Dao also has a ring pommel. That one pretty much stay consistent. But the thing with this one is it's broadish. At least a lot more broader compared to the older swords, and it's clipped that way. So imagine, here's the blade. Instead of the point being here, it's clipped that way. So it's primarily a chopping, just full-on cut-oriented sword. And then after the Mongols came, that's when the curved Dao starts to be introduced. You have things like Yanling Daos, which is the goose quill sabers. It's the Yanling Dao is a mostly straight and slightly curved sword. Then the other common type is a Liu Dao, which is this. More curved, but it could be slightly but it is no, but it's a slightly curved saber, not not a dramatic curve, but a curve nonetheless. Then you have things like Jirbei Dao, Qi Jia Dao, Miao Daos, Chang Dao. Oh yeah, actually this is gonna be for Dao. I will go into Jians later, but stuff like you have things like Jirbei Daos, which is the straight backs, not as common as they used to be, but they're still around. The Tijia Dao, it came during the times of Qi Ji Guang, because Qi and Jia is House of Jia Dao, and that came after Qi Ji Guang, a Ming Dynasty general, fought off the Wokou, which is Japanese pirates, and they took the design. It basically went like this. You have the katana. The katana originally originated from imported. No, at least it was once a straight sword, but then it went into a curved sword. But before the curved sword, it was a straight sword, and before that, a straight sword. The swords that ancient Japan got was imported from the mainland, and yeah, the mainland. They took sword designs from the Tang. Yeah, the Tang swords, and basically over a few centuries they came up with their own design, which would inevitably be the katana. But yeah, back on track. The Tijia Dao is basically the inverse. They took a Japanese design and made it into the Tijia Dao, which would later be known as a Wo Dao. Now, the Miao Dao is a two-handed sword. It is a two-hander. Sure, you can use it in one hand, but why would you do that? It's a two-handed curved sword. You also have things like in the Qing Dynasty, you have sword styles like the Niue Dao, which is the oxtail saber. The Niue Dao is like it looks like the stereotypical kung fu sword. You know that design, that like relatively thin right here and then broadens out with like plane wise on like flat side wise. Yeah, the stereotypical kung fu sword. Yeah, that was an original sword. That came from an original, which is a Niue Dao, which means oxtail saber, which came from the 19th century and stayed onward. At least for the civilians. Same thing, and there's another type of Dao called the Da Dao, which is the big cleaver, big blade. That was also used in the Qing Dynasty, but also into the Republic, the ROC, the Republic of China. And the Da Dao is a two-hander. You can also use it in one hand. Designs vary, but it's broad blade, like a Song Dao. The Da Dao lasted all the way up to the Qing to the Republic, and the oxtail saber stood the test of time and became the stereotypical kung fu sword or gung fu sword. Now onto Jin. Now you have considerably not as many types of Jin, but Jin's a Jin. You have one-handers and two-handers. Most of the time it was one-handers, aside from some types of swords during the later warring states. Yeah, they have long swords in the warring states. I'll link some videos down below. And two-handed swords in the Han Dynasty. And there's also a certain type of spear that is essentially a sword on a stick. It's called a hansha, but that's a polearm than a sword. But it's interesting nonetheless. Yeah, there's Changjian. I'm gonna call it a Changjian because it makes the point. A long, double-edged straight sword. There's one was from the Warring States. The other is from the Han Dynasty. I'll link these stuff down below. Then the designs of the Jin relatively stayed consistent. At least in Ming and Qing. The Ming and Qing swords stayed consistent. until the Republic era, because gunpowder and all that. Oh wait, no, I just remembered something. Back to the Dao. Another type of Dao you'll see often enough, at least in the military, is the new Qing Army sabers, which is designed like a Western military saber. I forgot about that, but they existed because modernization efforts in the late Qing dynasty, albeit it was a bit too late because the dynasty didn't last that long into the 20th century. But yeah, back to the Jin. They vary in lengths, of course. You have things like Duanjian, which is a short sword. Same thing with the Dao. You have a Duan Dao. They're both pretty short. You have a Duan Dao. You got a Duanjian. Both small and reliable. They're small and reliable. Then in the Republic, you have things like you have a Republic era Jin, which is characterized by a large guard, at least most of the time, a long handle comparatively to the Qing Jin, and a ricasso, which is a blunt part of a sword. It's at the base. It's always at the base of the sword blade. After that, that's the end. That's relatively the end of the at least the civilian and military life of the sword. All swords beyond that point just went to... Actually, I'm not gonna say all swords, but a lot of swords just at least designed after that was just mainly for kung fu use. You know, form training and all that jazz. But yeah, that's the common types you'll see enough, or at least all types and most of the common types. There are some other types of swords like a piandao, but then again, I haven't really seen much of those, nor seen anyone really talking about them. And all these terms, the New Wei Dao, Oxtail Sabers, like Liu Dao, all those terms, they're relatively just they're most of them are just collector's terms. It's just used to help organize things. It's both a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is, where do you draw the line? What makes one sword and another? Or what makes a dagger not a short sword? Or what makes a short sword a dagger? Where do you draw the line? All the terminologies and all that jazz. It's a good and a bad thing. And we're just gonna have to stick with it. But yeah, this is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Find it informative and all that jazz. And I'll see y'all. Oh, and again, I'm gonna link down below some videos that you can watch more on this topic. And yeah, peace out.